Yeah, we could do it. We could stick with the Carolina Panthers here.
We're moving on. Yeah, so let's move on to the running backs for waiver wire week 4. We got, am I saying that right? Chuba,
yeah. I think everyone wants to say Chubba, yeah. But I think you do pronounce it
Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
He's not the same as Christian McCaffrey, but the way they utilize running backs in this situation, you have to grab Chuba Hubbard. He didn't look as, you know what I mean? He's not the same as Christian McCaffrey, but you saw Mike Davis do well last year when CMC went out. So I love, this is definitely my number one priority, and I think it should be everybody's.
Yeah, for sure, especially if you're a CMC owner. I mean, I'm doing everything I can to get this guy. I'm spending a decent amount of FAAB. I was reading something earlier today before we recorded that they're not going to put Christian McCaffrey on the IR. So there's like the short-term IR where you have to miss at least 3 games. So they haven't put him on the IR yet, which is a good indication that he could potentially come back in a couple games. So, obviously, if you get Chuba Hubbard, maybe it's just a short-term. Maybe it's only 2 to 3 game window span where he's going to be utilized in your fantasy lineup. But with hamstring injuries, they do reoccur. Christian McCaffrey can come back and
stay out
and re-aggravate it right away. So, yeah, Chuba Hubbard is definitely a top priority to be aiming at for this week. And, once Christian McCaffrey went down, you had Royce Freeman, who they picked up off the waivers before the season started. But Chuba Hubbard outsnaps Royce Freeman 40 snaps to 11 snaps. So it was the Chuba Hubbard show there. And a guy who, I kind of liked, coming out of Oklahoma State. The guy's got, like, crazy speed. He's like a world-class Olympic like track athlete speed, but he just happens to play football. So I think this guy's barely scratching the surface of what his like true potential could be as like an NFL running back. But if he's going to beat, like you said, Mike Davis was a very capable guy. At very worst, I think Chuba Hubbard comes in and he's a running back 2 for you. And
yeah,
I don't know, maybe even if you only utilize him for 2 weeks, those are some points right there that you could use to help you win your matchup next week.
Yeah, I think I was watching and he just had a couple, I think he had like 2 drops. But I think that there's so much opportunity for the guy. This is a no-brainer.
So yeah, if I'm Chris McCaffrey owner, I'm definitely trying to get him.
How much percentage of FAAB would you spend on him?
I'll probably spend at least 30%.
At least. Because I think you're going to have to end up spending a lot because if you want to get him. But
just especially if I'm the Christian McCaffrey owner, I might be doing a little bit more because it's like now not only are you getting Chuba Hubbard, you're getting him, you're getting your handcuff because like I said, if anything happens, these hamstring injuries are super tricky and you just don't know what's going to happen with them. So God forbid Christian McCaffrey comes back, he gets hurt again. At least you have Chuba Hubbard as your handcuff. So if I'm the Christian McCaffrey owner, I'm a little more aggressive, I think, than compared to like. Let's say you already have 3 or 4 pretty decent running backs. You're like, I don't really need Chuba Hubbard. Maybe I'm throwing in a thing there because I could play him over some other guys if the matchup's better. Because I do think that game next week, Dallas and Panthers, I think that'll be an exciting game. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. So, but yeah, there's always a possibility too where Chuba Hubbard's only utilized for 2 games and that's it. Then Christian McCaffrey comes back and it's like Chuba Hubbard's an afterthought. So you don't want to go out there and blow your entire load on a guy who you might only utilize for 2-3 games. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I think there's during the season though, there's only so many. Like I'm spending my FAAB on running backs for the most part, so I think this is one of those situations where I'm okay with spending a decent amount. There's guys. Who was the week 1 target everybody went for? They spent way too much money on
Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, I would spend the money that people spend on Elijah Mitchell on Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
So, but we can move on to the next one here. We got Cordarelle Patterson. Another week. We got Cordarelle Patterson on the Waiver Wire episode. This guy is just, especially in PPR leagues. I don't know. He's doing well. I know Dre was saying he's not the brightest guy. He apparently has problems learning playbooks, but
he's probably
doing well.
One of the most athletic guys.
Yeah, exactly. So he's doing well. So what you can't ask for more.
Yeah.
Solid flex play.
Yeah. So obviously people aren't listening or paying attention to Cordarelle Patterson, a guy who we did talk about last week. He had the 2 touchdowns last week, and then he comes out this week, has another good game. puts up a solid stat line. I think he had 13 total touches, so he's gotten 7 carries in all 3 games. So I mean, for whatever it is, 777 jackpot. At least he's next week he's probably gonna get 7 more carries, and then he seems to be the receiving back out of the backfield, not Mike Davis. And I don't know if it was just because I don't know what it is, the Falcons. Like, you draft this guy Kyle Pitts with the 4th pick, whatever it is, and like they just are not utilizing him at all. I get it, he's a rookie, but I mean, it's like, bro, they're not even targeting him. Like,
yeah.
So for what it's worth, I mean, yeah, Cordarelle Patterson needs to be owned in 100% of leagues. I mean, he's still available in I think I was looking, it was like 45% of some leagues, and I'm like, what is going on here? Why, are people not paying attention? Like, I don't understand.
There's like he's 60% rostered, so 59.9.
But even then, it's like, even if you're in a 10-man league, you're thinking like, oh well, especially when you go into 10-man leagues, like some of these teams are stacked.
There's some people that,
but it's
do
like why not? Why don't you just boost up your bench? And like I said, I'd rather have Cordarelle Patterson go off for 2 touchdowns and put a 20 burger on my bench instead of my opponent has him in the flex. Now he scores 20 points and I lose because of it, Yeah. Like, you can never keep improving your team. Like, it doesn't matter how good your starting lineup is. Maybe the guy who had Christian McCaffrey was like, oh, I don't need him because I got Christian McCaffrey and I don't know, someone else, and like Chris Carson, and like, I don't need Cordarelle Patterson. It's like, I bet you'd be licking your chops right now to have the depth at the running back position and have a guy like Cordarelle Patterson, because now you're out CMC for a couple weeks. So it's just like, always try to improve your roster. Always try and go out and get the best available players on the waivers. Even if you're not going to utilize them in your lineup, you could use those players in trades, or if you end up trading some of your starters to upgrade at a position, you can now use a guy like Cordarelle Patterson and throw him in as your running back 2, or throw him in as your flex option, because you traded away a couple of the players and you upgraded at a certain position. So yeah, Cordarelle Patterson needs to be like 100% owned after this year.
This week.
This week. And for whatever reason, like I said, the Falcons are utilizing him. They went out and they signed him in free agency, and he's obviously an important part of their offense. And they're finding ways to get the ball into his hand, because when he does get the ball in his hands, he is like an elusive, shifty, athletic guy who can make things happen after the catch. So yeah, go get Cordarelle Patterson. Yeah. And I was kind of wrong on this one. I like to humble brag when we get calls right, but I was pretty wrong on this one in terms of, during the start sit 'em, some people were like Cordarelle Patterson or this, and I was kind of off of it because I was like, I don't know, maybe it was just a one game. I wanted to see it again, but after seeing it for 2 weeks in a row, like I said, I just think the Falcons want to incorporate him in this offense.
Yeah, definitely. Line him up, grab him. I think he'll end up being about 80% owned after this week, after waivers go through.
Yeah, he's got to be up there for sure.
Okay, let's move on to the next running back here. We have Alexander Mattison. Backup for Dalvin Cook. Alexander Mattison. When we do these live streams before all the games start, and so people were asking about Alexander Mattison, should they start him, whatnot, and there's only so many opportunities to play these handcuffs, and they just sit on your bench forever. And so my point was if you're not going to play him, why even have him? Yeah. So he put up a decent numbers. I think you got to go get this guy. And because of these other guys, I think you could get him at somewhat of a discount maybe in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Dalvin Cook owner, he was probably one of the highest handcuffs, highest number one priority handcuffs that you should have been drafting. If you're drafting Dalvin Cook, you should have made it a priority to make sure you got Alexander Mattison as your handcuffed, because Dalvin Cook, he is kind of like, I don't want to say injury prone, but he's a guy who has dealt with injuries his whole career. I was, like I said, I like to say when I'm right, but I was wrong on this one. A couple people did say Mattison, and I was kind of off of it because I feel like Mattison had a couple games last year, 1 or 2 games where he had the opportunity to be the guy, and he just didn't show it. So I was kind of off on it. But I didn't expect him to get 32 touches.
Yeah,
if you would have told me, hey, Alexander Madison's going to see the ball 32 times today, then I would have been like, fire up Alexander Madison. Because even if he gets you 3 yards a touch, he's going to get you 96 yards, and then the catches and all that stuff. So, but 32 total touches, 6 of them there were receptions for 59 yards. It is a tough matchup next week. They're going to be at home against the Browns, the Cleveland Browns front seven, one of the best front sevens in the NFL. And then also you got to monitor on Dalvin Cook. Like Dalvin Cook was kind of like a game time decision. So was this just a 1 week thing here? Does Dalvin Cook come back next week? But like I said, it's kind of the same thing with CMC and Chuba Hubbard. Like, does Dalvin Cook come out and does he get re-aggravated? So I think Alexander Mattison needs to be rostered in 100% of leagues because if something does happen to Dalvin Cook, we are seeing that the Vikings have some faith in him. I mean, 32 touches is a fuck ton of touches.
That's so much. Nobody, I mean, they gave him all of the workload.
Yeah.
Literally.
So, yeah, I think he's a guy who definitely needs to be rostered in 100% of leagues, even if he's just your backup, because, like I said, God forbid if anything happens to Dalvin Cook, this guy steps right in. And, I mean, they gave him, like, the full reins. They gave him the keys to the kingdom, I guess you could say, in a sense. So, yeah, I was wrong on that one in terms of starting him, but, I mean, if he's going to see that type of workload as the guy, then, yeah, he needs to be rostered in every league.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one here. We got Zack Moss. This is someone that I was actually targeting in a lot of leagues in the later rounds just because he, to me, he was like the RB1. The problem is that this Bills offense really, really does only pass the ball, but he had a pretty good week 3. I'm not mad at it. Definitely go grab him. I think your time to sell Devin Singletary has come and gone, and Zack Moss is going to be back in the lineup.
Yeah, this is like a crazy pass-happy offense. Like I was watching some of those games, some of the highlights or whatever, or the game. I was watching the game yesterday. Mm-hmm. Just it was like pass, run, pass. So, but yeah, like I said, I feel like you can never have enough running backs. I do think this is like a running back by committee with Singletary and Zack Moss. But for whatever it's worth, after a surprising week 1 inactive, he was a healthy scratch. The last 2 games, weeks 2 and weeks 3, Zack Moss has scored 15 or more PPR points in both those games. And this Bills offense looks, I mean, this, when you're talking about like high-powered scoring offenses, you always think of the Chiefs and stuff. But, I mean, the Bills are right there, in my opinion. And I hate saying that as a Dolphins fan, but, I mean, this Bills offense it's electric. But, yeah, the Bills offense, they're going to be scoring a ton of points. So a ton of opportunities to be inside the red zone, ton of opportunities to be inside the 5. Zack Moss is obviously the bigger back out of the 2 between him and Singletary. So, yeah, I think Zack Moss needs to be owned in 100% of leagues as well because even if you're not playing him because you have 2 good running backs, like I said, you can never have enough depth at the position and then trade equity. Trade equity.
Yeah, I think I always just look at fantasy as like value. How much value do I have on my team? Even if my bench outscores like my running backs that I started, I'm okay because they're, like you always say, they're not on somebody else's team playing against you. So, okay, we good. So grab Zack Moss. We go on to the next one.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. Jeff Wilson Jr. What are your thoughts on this? To me, I think that you can. If this guy's here after the waivers go through, I'll pick up Jeff Wilson. But I'm so burnt out on 49ers running backs.
No, yeah, me too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'll go add him, but I don't know if I'm going to waste a waiver wire claim on another Niners running back right now.
Yeah, no, and just let's make a point here. You're not putting a waiver claim in for Jeff Wilson. Okay. I'm not spending any FAAB on Jeff Wilson. That's what I'm not putting a waiver claim in on Jeff Wilson. This is more of a speculative grab and stash. Especially if you have IR spots on your bench. So hopefully you have at least 1. I mean, there's some leagues where you have 2. There's some leagues where you have 3. Especially I know with the whole COVID situation last year, a lot of leagues they kind of opened up the IR spots because if someone got COVID, you could just throw them on the IR. That way you don't have to drop players, due to COVID related reasons. But so for what I did in 2 of my leagues, I had some IR spots that were open. I just went out and grabbed Jeff Wilson Jr., threw him into my IR spot. So it's not really affecting my bench, but he's on my team for the time being until he does come back from IR. And the only reason why I did this, and like I said, this is a speculative ad, grabbing him, I'm stashing him. Like, who knows if it's going to be something? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but Raheem Mostert obviously out for the year. We see Elijah Mitchell doing okay in his first couple games he's been in there. Sermon kind of was the guy last night on Sunday Night Football. Obviously they were behind in the Packers early, so kind of abandoned the run game there. But who knows? For all you know, when Jeff Wilson Jr. comes back, maybe he's the starting running back because he is like the veteran. He is the guy who's the most familiar with the Shanahan offense and the San Francisco 49ers, not these rookies, Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon. So is there a potential that he comes back and he's the guy? Maybe, maybe not. But that's what I'm saying. It's a low risk, high reward. If you got an IR spot, I'm not wasting a waiver claim. I'm not spending any FAAB, but I'm grabbing him and I'm throwing him in my IR spot just to hold on to him.
I was gonna say, the Niners are down to they're using their fullback, Kyle Juszczyk is in there, so I don't know.
I mean, that right there should speak volume of like how they're just feeling about their running backs right now. Like it's as Estancia would say, it's gross.
Gross. Yeah, but that, in my opinion, I'm staying away from a lot of Niners backfield, but I like it as a speculative ad if you have the IR spots for sure, especially if you have the extra COVID IR spots.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's go on to the next running back here. We got a lot of running backs today. You can't ever have too many running backs. We got Nyheim Hines outscoring Jonathan Taylor in fantasy.
Does he really?
I'm pretty sure he has more fantasy points on the year than Jonathan Taylor.
Well, look that up. I'm curious to see if that's true.
Go ahead, but you can make your case on him.
Yeah. So, like I said, Jeff Wilson, not spending FAAB, not doing a waiver claim. Nyheim Hines, I'm 1,000% throwing a waiver claim in there. I'm 1,000% dropping some FAAB on him. I'm trying to get Nyheim Hines on my roster if he's available to be picked up. Next week, they're going to be at Miami against the Dolphins. Like I said, I went to that game, and one thing I just realized is like Miami really struggled guarding players that were in like the flats. And when you think of like running backs, running backs sneak out into the flats, screen plays, etc. So I think Nyheim Hines could be in line for a pretty juicy game, as much as I hate to say it being a Dolphins fan. But Nyheim Hines, 5 or more catches in 2 of the 3 games so far this season. And this has been a full-blown running back by committee.
Yeah, in PPR leagues, he has more.
What is it?
Wait, let me make sure this is PPR. Yeah. In PPR leagues, Jonathan Taylor had 17, 6, and 8. And then Nyheim Hines in PPR leagues, I totaled it out. It's about 35 points, so it's, yeah.
And then what about Nyheim Hines?
I totaled it out. I'll tell you. I totaled it out to 35 points total. He had 14, did 3, you total it 18. Out? Did
you total it out?
To 35, I said. 14, 18, and 3.
For sure. So they're pretty close. They're pretty neck and neck.
Yeah, but it's still. But I mean, it still is. Jonathan Taylor was getting drafted in the first fucking round.
Yeah, first, second round. Yeah. Nyheim Hines is not 50% available right now, exactly. Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, this is a full running back by committee. When you look at through 3 games, obviously it's 3 games, but that's a decent sample size of how this Colts offense is probably going to run going forward. I mean, we've seen Marlon Mack just be non-existent. He's just kind of like the backup guy, the depth guy, in case anything happens. But throughout the first 3 weeks, the snap count is 101 snaps for Jonathan Taylor, 93 for Nyheim Hines. So you're looking at like a 52% snap share for Jonathan Taylor and like a 48% snap share for Nyheim Hines. So this is really a full-blown running back committee. And I think that's one of the reasons why, I know you, Mike, you probably agree with me, but why we weren't too high on Jonathan Taylor coming into the season, and why we were saying like it's not the guy, we don't think Jonathan Taylor is good, but we were just concerned about how they were going to divvy up, these carries. And, Nyheim Hines, obviously the pass catching guy, and they paid him. They signed him to a contract extension. So the Colts organization views him as a guy they want for the future. And they view him as a guy who's an important piece and an important part of that offense going forward for the franchise. So yeah, go get Nyheim Hines.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. Bummer if you have Jonathan Taylor. Would you trade for Jonathan Taylor though?
I'm not mad at trading for Jonathan Taylor because maybe you get him on the low, but it's like I feel more comfortable with Jonathan Taylor being my 2 instead of my 1. You know what I'm saying? And I think I said that when we did the panic and patient. Like I'm panicking if he's my RB1, and I plan on him being this guy who's gonna just destroy for me, like a Derrick Henry type of guy. But if he's my RB2, I was being a little bit more patient. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if I can get him as my RB2, or maybe you're stacked at running back and you can get him as your RB3. Yeah, I'm not mad at getting him because even if he does blow up, maybe you trade him later on in the season for like a wide receiver 1 or something.
Yeah,
potentially. But
it. All right, let's move on to. What'd you say? You said you liked that video, and it was really informative, and now you want to subscribe so you can win your fantasy football league. Okay, go ahead. You wish that we would live stream and answer fantasy football questions every Sunday before the games? Okay, they sure do. AVG Fantasy Football has your back. Did you get what I did there? It was a little Dora the Explorer, a little back and forth. Like, we weren't actually talking, but you thought maybe you did. Yeah, you thought. Yeah, I convinced you. It's called acting. What else did you say? You said that you want to be able to call in while we do live streams? Hey, should I start McCaffrey? Well, yeah. Here it is. This is an example of what's going to happen. Hello? Yes. I'm curious. Should I start Dalvin Cook? Then this is us. Yeah. Obviously, you should play Dalvin Cook because Dalvin Cook's like really good. So I'd say, it is matchup proof. So put him in your lineup. It's that damn easy. And then bam, you won your fantasy football league that week. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see more videos just like this. If you want to see us answer questions live every Sunday before the games start, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you know right when we drop content for you to win your fantasy football league.